War for the Planet of the Apes is out, and you should not miss seeing it in the cinema. It's really, really good, and here's why. Regular viewers of the channel will know that I have a 5-star scale for blockbusters. They're not that hard to meet as criteria, but I do feel like every blockbuster should represent them in some form. It has to have a plot that makes basic sense on first inspection, characters whose actions and motivations I understand. It's basically well made with good direction, some effective special effects maybe, and pretty to look at. It shouldn't be needlessly offensive, otherwise it's not really a mass audience film. And if all the others are right, then it should be emotive, it should make me feel something. I'm going to run through those quickly, and I'm not going to spoil the film in any way, so details might be vague, but basically I think this film actually surpasses that blockbuster rating scale, and you'll find out why as the video carries on. One problem I had with the film before I even watched it was that the trailer portrayed the movie as being quite similar in terms of plot to the second film in the series. I mean, you've basically got apes versus humans, they're trying not to start a war with each other, it looks like it might escalate, and they're both holed up somewhere, trying to hide from the other. I wasn't really convinced about doing that plot again because the second one did drag at certain points for me. The plot of this film, and I'm not going to spoil it for you, so don't worry, is, broadly speaking, very different to how the trailer portrays it. The plot of this film is not simple, but quite minimal, and that makes it easy to understand for the audience. I don't mean that as in a bad thing about it. On the contrary, what I feel like is that that's because A, they're dealing with a world that they've really, really successfully established in the previous 2 films, and B, the plot is very clearly motivated by the characters in the film, and in the case of Caesar, we've been following him for 3 movies now. So what you end up with is this tense kind of potboiler scenario almost, where there's this building dread slowly emanating throughout the film. And that's an amazing thing to do in a blockbuster. That's a tone that you don't see that often. I think this year Logan would probably be the comparison, which sort of similarly posits a world where everything is at risk and there's a real possibility of extinction for some of the main characters. Speaking of characters, let's talk about Caesar. The first Planet of the Apes for me felt like James Franco's story. It's about an extraordinary man in a very strange position who finds himself with an extraordinary animal, Caesar. The second film felt like a two-hander. It was very much the humans versus the apes. So we got an equal amount of time with the humans and an equal amount of time with the apes. And that film got a lot of praise for really going into the apes' point of view, being in sign language a lot of the time, often being completely dialogue-free. This film very much feels like the Apes movie. A lot of the time, there are no humans on screen. And if I have a problem with how that works, it's almost because the villain, the Colonel, played by Woody Harrelson, feels underserved by that dynamic. He doesn't get much time on screen, so it's sort of hard to build him up as a presence. Now, as it happens, Woody Harrelson is a really good actor. He has a good sense of tension in a scene, and he does get one absolutely standout scene of what felt like 10 minutes or so, just about him explaining his plans, his motivations, and what happened to him in his past. It's really great to have character focus like that in a blockbuster because it doesn't actually happen that much. And again, the comparison that comes to mind this year is Logan, which is a film which, in a similar sense, had a lot of scenes that were just quiet, tense conversations that often played out in their entirety. But anyway, getting back to the apes and Caesar in particular, it's amazing to watch Andy Serkis' performance underneath what is essentially not his own face or body, where he really brings to life this character who's not quite an animal and not quite a man as well. I saw this about a month ago at a preview screening, and the director, Matt Reeves, Woody Harrelson and Andy Serkis were there, and they were doing a little bit of a Q&A on stage before the film began. The interviewer asked Serkis what it was like to have a character that he's kind of brought through 3 movies now. But the really exceptional thing about this that Serkis pointed out is that he doesn't just get to play the same character across 3 movies. He gets to play quite a radically different character, in a sense, between those 3 films. Caesar's character arc is incredibly dynamic. If you think about it, it starts off with him as a baby, and it ends off with him as an old man, basically, in charge of a large community with a lot of responsibility. That's an amazing dynamic to be able to portray across 3 films, and it's something I'd love to do a video on in future, so let me know if you're interested in that in the comments down below. All of the ape actors do incredible work, and it's made all the more astonishing by the fact that almost all of their scenes are in sign language with very little spoken dialogue at any point in those bits. The movie's about responsibility, leadership, desperation, and pain, and that really wouldn't work if it wasn't for the fact that Harrelson and Serkis put in amazing performances in the film. But it's weird to talk about this movie and not talk about the special effects, so I'm going to get right into that. It was amazing watching the film and having to remind myself every couple of minutes that all the characters on screen were completely digital. The first film was lauded for its special effects, but this is way more advanced than anything that they did in that movie. There's one point in the film where one of the apes is digging and you see his hands come out of dirt. And it's like these little particles being pushed away by these leathery hands of a chimp. And I was watching it, and I suddenly had this moment where I was like, I have no idea if that was actually done with like close-up puppet hands or CGI or whatever, and it turns out it's all CGI. It's an astonishing thing to accomplish that. In a way, we've had that technology for a while. If you think about movies like Benjamin Button that bring about a character that really couldn't exist in any real sense with prosthetics or anything, through purely digital technology and where it's photorealistic to the average viewer. But it's the first time I've seen a movie that had all that technology in it that felt really revolutionary in how it approached that. In science fiction and fantasy, but really in any sort of literature, there's this idea of xenofiction, which is a story that's told from the perspective of a character who isn't human. Quite often in those stories you have the sense that the character is kind of like human-like, they're anthropomorphized, right? But there are books and stuff that are from the perspective of animals, and they think like animals. I don't think I'd ever really seen that on screen until I saw this film. There are moments in the film where the apes do very ape-like things, where they assert dominance over each other purely with their body language. And then there are moments when they are extraordinarily human. In particular, Caesar does this a lot when he makes his speeches. In the end, the actors are so completely subsumed by that technology that they bring about this new tone in the film, which, like I said, I don't really think I've seen before. And if you can think of an example, let me know, because it was fascinating. And that is this idea that we are watching a film from the perspective of animals, of a character that we've never seen be the main voice of a film before. But it's not just the CGI that we have to thank for that. It's also because Matt Reeves is shaping up to be a really interesting director. I remember seeing Cloverfield, which was directed by Matt Reeves, when I was about 15, and just thinking that it was a really innovative film, in the sense that it was looking at something giant and cinematic like a big monster attack on New York, but interpreting it through a found footage lens. And whenever I think about what's good about found footage, it really is Cloverfield and Chronicle that say everything about the genre and its potential to me. It's wasted potential by and large, because mostly it's used for shit horror movies. But anyway, Let Me In was an okay English language remake of a much better film, but when you look at Dawn, and in particular War, you can really see an extremely interesting directorial perspective coming in. The first frame of War for the Planet of the Apes is totally out of focus. It's just greenery in a forest, and the camera is slowly pushing in while there's a text spiel on top. Then the text falls away and we see a group of people walking into shot. They're not talking to each other, they're quietly treading forwards, and all we can hear is the noise of the forest, the noise of their footsteps, a little bit of breathing, and the music just quietly underneath. And the whole film is full of moments like that, quite far away from the smash bang wallop that we usually expect from a summer blockbuster. We get these long, desolate, quiet, contemplative scenes where almost nothing happens on screen and nothing is said. And it just allows the tension and the fear and the desperation to build. And it really is an astonishing bit of directing. For him to do that in an effects-based summer blockbuster, that's brave, and that's really cool. The film's not offensive in any way. I actually really like that it has a message that's all about how difficult leadership is and responsibility is. It shies away from giving a exact political view on either of them. And there's also lots of interesting stuff around sort of power and control, and even a little bit about faith. And I think those are fascinating themes to put in a film like this, and they're treated very well. Is the film emotive? Yes, I had a tear in my eye several times throughout the film. I am an easy crier in movies, but then also it made the whole audience laugh out loud several times in the film. And there are these incredibly tense little sequences stuck there throughout, so you're constantly on the edge of your seat. Reeves isn't just a cerebral director in terms of how he's looking at action, he's also focused on what the audience feels about the movie. My God, does this movie make you feel? This movie is a 5-star blockbuster, but I'm going to go one step further than that. I think this is a movie that actually surpasses the blockbuster label and should be treated as a really solid film by everyone in the critic world. With movies like this, Logan and Wonder Woman, I felt a real difference in how they approach their characters and consequences in their films, and I'm hoping that's a change that sticks. But then again, this is Hollywood, so we'll probably get a buttload of superhero movies with talking apes in them, because hey, that's what the kids like, right? That's it from me. Hope you enjoyed my review, and don't forget to leave a comment down below to tell me what you thought about the film. I'm dying to know what you think, because for me, this is really what I want a blockbuster movie to be. If you like the video, don't forget to show that by clicking the like button, and also subscribe to get the next one when it comes out. Have a good one. See you later.